Oh, well, I'm jealous.
So I'm going to do this. So this is Brian Sebastian, movie reviews and more, women on TV.tv. See, Madeline, I'm on a women's channel. And that's most important because it's all about women. Worldwide TV network and our iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Comcast, Pandora, Spotify, you name it, we're on all those platforms. So gotta welcome everybody because Madeline, you're in Canada too, right?
Yes, yes.
No, all right, I have to say hi to all my Canadian friends because
No,
very good for me.
Madeline's in New Jersey.
that's right.
Okay, so Howard, you get the credit on this one.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
So Madeline, tell us who you were and tell us a little bit about the story because I don't know how old you are, but I know you're not that old because you look very young. You have a very youthful spirit. So I don't know what the hell you've been doing, but I can tell.
Thank you very much. All right, you want me to get started? All right.
Go ahead.
I was born in Newark, New Jersey. And my parents are Russian immigrants. I'm a fourth child from 5 of a family. And I always loved to sing. I sang any place, anywhere. Who wanted to hear me? They all did. But I sang, and that's how I got started. And going into that, I was interested in music. And I recall in high school, there was a theater in downtown Newark called the Adams Theater. And they had great performers there. They had they had Ella Fitzgerald, they had the Andrews sisters, they had good names. So I followed them all the time. And I heard one time that they were going to have a contest at the theater. So I entered it and I won. Now the MC for the concert that day, was the comedian Joey Adams. And after the show, he came to me and he said, "You have a very good voice." He said, "You should pursue it." So I was elated. I was flying. I was happy. This great comedian said something good to me. And so as a result, I still kept my eye on singing. And I knew there was a recording studio in downtown Newark called Hertz Recording Company. So I saved my pennies and I went down there and I recorded some songs. This was in 1946. And that was it. And then I was going to go ahead with my career, but there was a problem in the family. We were kind of poor. We didn't have any money. And I just could not do what I really wanted to do. So I, as a result, I knew that the family needed me. There were times, I'm sure, I sort of remember that there probably wasn't food to go around for everybody for a meal. So as a result, I decided to get a job as a secretary and help my family. And so I stayed around and I did not pursue my career. And I stayed as a secretary doing what I thought I should have done. And that's the background I have at the moment.
How did you eventually end up recording? How did that happen?
Well, let me see. The first recording at Hertz, it was on my own. I knew I sang. I knew there was a studio down there, and I wanted to go down there and record, which is what I did. And that's how I started with the recordings. And there were 78, but I did it in 1946. Yes. Anything else to add to that?
Well, when I think of that, obviously the Andrews sisters were hot back then. I'm thinking of Abbott and Costello. I'm thinking of Laemmle Theaters, Universal, the monster films at that point.
Yeah, I would say everybody who was anybody was at that theater. That's the kind of theater it was. Yes, the Adams Theater, Newark, right. They had everybody.
So were you a moviegoer too? Because movies were big then.
I am, I was a moviegoer. Yeah, Saturdays I would go to see whatever theaters, and I watched, well, you watched your pennies, so I saw the show twice. I stayed at one time and I stayed the second time, and I sort of got my money's worth and enjoyed it. Yes, yes.
So
very
I'm
good.
thinking of then.
Wonderful.
I'm thinking of Bing Crosby, who was big then. I'm thinking of Father, I know you heard of this, Father Patrick Payton, the family that prays together, the family that stays together on radio also, right?
Okay, that sounds good. I've heard that before.
Ah, you surprised I knew these things?
No, not surprised at anything.
But with that, so
But that's-
you're in this recording studio and you're starting to
Yes,
make this new music. What was that feeling like for you?
what, say that again, I'm sorry. The
When you were in the recording studio, what was
Yes,
that feeling like for you?
well, I felt great. I was singing. I was in front of the microphone and whoever was listening heard me. And that was the good feeling.
So Howard, when you think of hearing a little bit of her story, how did you not know about that? Talk about your experience of that.
Well, even though Madeline and her husband, Joe, are my father's first cousins, I'm a dual citizen of Canada and the United States. I was born here in Canada, but because both my parents were Americans and never changed their citizenship, all of my relatives are in the US. So we would see Joe and Madeline and their kids, Glenn and Adrian, every few years. You know, there'd be some kind of family thing going on. And it was always fun to visit them in New Jersey. I always loved going to the US. And I remember years later, they came up to Canada in 1976 when we had the Olympics here. So for me, you know, my cousins were just my cousins. It was always a treat to see them, always fun. They were great people. And, but, you know, when you're a kid, you don't really dig very deep into your older relatives' lives, you know, unless they're your grandparents or you see them all the time. So I remember Madeline and I talking about music, and I remember her interest in music, but I didn't know that she was really quite a good singer. And never mind that there were recordings, there were these kind of time capsules from 1946, and that years later, after I had been working for decades in the music industry, that Glenn would tell me about this. And you know, Madeline's right. Of course, the records in those days were made of acetate.
Yeah.
And if you dropped them, they shattered into a million pieces. They were super fragile. As a matter of fact, most artists who had recording contracts, even up until the 60s, they were paid royalties on 90% of the discs made because 10% was always waived off as breakage. So when they would load the boxes behind stores, you'd figure that the first 10 would crack anyway. So it was a real surprise when Glenn asked me if I knew anything about restoration of old recordings. And I had done that sort of work, working on projects at the National Film Board of Canada. So I asked friends of mine and, you know, just colleagues who had done that sort of work before, and found a great studio in California. It's called King Tet Productions, TET. And the guy was great. And we sent the discs out there. They were digitized. He sent me the digital files. And in my studio, I reduced the noise a little bit, enhanced the frequencies a little bit, and then really just because it was an interesting project, never mind that it was a relative of mine, I took one of the songs that I thought Madeline had sung especially beautifully, and I posted it on my social media that's mostly frequented by other professional musicians and singers and producers. And the response was really lovely, overwhelming. And people started asking me, who is this person? And where did she come from? And how is it that you have these recordings? Madeline, when I listened to some of the recordings at the beginning, I heard a lot of influences from famous singers from that time, especially people like Billie Holiday and Ella Fitzgerald. You had probably listened to them so much that you had absorbed their styles a little bit, even though what you were doing was entirely you. So it was just a nice treat that so many of my colleagues, who, generally are nice people, but not always that easy to impress, really thought she was great and wanted to reach out and communicate with her. And that's when I suggested to Glenn, this is kind of a nice story, what happened to your mom, a kind of time capsule, it's never too late, American dream kind of thing. And especially at a time when, there's a terrible virus going around and people are polarized politically. I suggested to Glenn that maybe he try to get the word out on his mom's story a little bit, because it's certainly not a controversial story. It's just a really sweet one. And the big bonus of all of it is that Madeline was very, very good. And the recordings now restored really show that.
Madeline.
Can I add
Oh, go ahead.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to add something to that, how we got involved with the recordings. See, my husband and I sold our house last year, and we moved into an apartment. And I was cleaning up all the things I hadn't seen in many years, and I came across this box, and in it were 78s from 1946 from Hertz Studio. I said, oh my God, this is what I did all those years ago. And then I found some others from 1953 at my wedding. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about that. Of course, I love to sing, and wherever I could sing, I would. I had just gotten married. Everyone was sitting down at the dining room table to have a festive meal. The band, of course, I hired a band, and I hired a man to record everything. Well, the band started to play, so of course I got up and I sang. And when I got up and I sang, that's how I got recordings of my wedding. And I was still in my gown. I had just gotten married. I was singing, and then and if you listen to the record, I was prompting the people, come join me, sing with me. I found records from 78, from 46, and I found them from 1953 with my wedding. So that was a find. That's when I ran to Glenn. I said, Glenn, look what I found. Come on. So that's how we got to Howie, and that's how it all started.
I got to ask you a couple of things. First of all, how old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I do, but I'll tell you. You're not going to tell anybody, right? I'm 94.
Because, and the reason why I'm asking, I'm listening to you. You look beautiful. I love your hair. You have this youthful energy. I'm thinking I'm always serious. People know me. I don't tell stories. You look 65 to me. The way I'm looking at you, the energy. No, seriously, that's how I picture you. Your memory and everything. Because here's what happens, and Howard, I'm sure you can attest to this. Music brings back memories of when we were.
Oh, yes. And
that's what makes it special. The second question is, did you forget that you had them? Because I guess you lived in the house for so long?
Yes. I had so much room in the house that I put them away, and I just never went back to them because there was no need to. They were never in my place. If I had a limited space, I would have looked at them through the years, but I had ample space to file things, so to speak. So it was there all the years. I probably in the back of my mind knew they were there and just didn't pay attention to it till we started to move. And then I found them, and I was so thrilled that I actually felt singing all these years ago. I could just hear myself doing it. It's amazing, I think.
The third thing about this, and Howard, you'll know this, is when those films or when those music recordings were there, the only reason they last is if you put them in like usually the cellar, someplace cool. So you had them someplace cool and you forgot about them, right?
That's correct. That's correct. But I did break some during the time. I had a glass recording of 78. It shattered into a million pieces. So that was the end of that. So like Howard said, you had to be very careful. Right. And evidently, the place that I stored them was absolutely great because they survived.
How long were you in the house for?
60 years.
Wow. Wow.
So that's right. So that's why we really hadn't touched them for many, many years. We just celebrated yesterday. We celebrated our 67th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Yes, that's right.
You know
Wow.
why that makes me happy
One
to hear
person.
this is because I know what it's like to lose photos. I have 9 photos of me when I was growing up as a kid. That's it. Because we had a flood. And I know you lived in New Jersey, you know, that stuff could have happened. And thank goodness you were in the right house.
That's correct.
Thank goodness.
That's right.
40s would have been lost.
Yeah, you're right. Well, yes.
How many recordings did you make? Do you remember total? And how many were left? Was it
Not too many. What I had left, we gave to Howie because some broke, like I said, and I probably didn't do that many. Probably didn't have enough money. You know, those days, money was very scarce.
true?
And so I did what I did, and I'm happy. I had them. It's wonderful. Everything that's happening, it makes me feel young again. I never felt old, so it doesn't matter.
Well, first of all, you're not, and obviously, like I said, for the 4th time, Marilyn, you have youthful spirit. You know how special that is? That's really
Yes. That's good. Thank
the
you.
other thing about that. So what were some of your favorite songs that you would sing and that you recorded?
Well, I like Begin to Begin.
Yes.
I love that. I sang that very often, and Ella Fitzgerald also recorded it. You know, she recorded it with me, right? I love that. And it's actually the songs that are on the record, which was the most favorite. Don't Take Your Love From Me. I love that. And whatever I had there is what I kept. Yes. And I sang same songs over and over and over again because I loved them.
You know, you got me thinking of Gene Krupa, the drummer, and I'm thinking of Buddy Rich as you're
Absolutely
saying that.
right. They were great. It's wonderful. There's a recording of Gene Krupa. I can't remember the name of it, but it's wonderful that he recorded it. Yes.
Begin. I hadn't heard that in a long time. I remember playing that
Well,
orchestra, and I remember going overseas and playing that during our high school
right, yes.
orchestra and jazz. I remember.
That's probably, yeah. It was a tough song. You had to have a big range. So that's probably why I had a pretty good range. So that's probably why I liked it.
Were you soprano?
Yes. No, alto.
Alto?
2.5 octave. Yeah, alto.
So how long would it take for you to warm up? What would if I challenged you to sing something? What's the first thing off the top of your head?
Well, it won't sound like I used to. That's the first thing I think about. It's not the same, but the way it is. Thank goodness I found the records. I could say, you know, go listen to the records. You'll hear me.
So when you're thinking of those days when you were growing up in your mind's eye, if you were humming a song, what might it be? What might be one or two that you might be thinking of?
Off the top of my head, believe it or not, because you come to me with not that. I love that one. Right.
Wow.
Yes. And the pop songs, whatever was around at the time, I sang. But
When
whatever it was.
whatever it was.
Yes. What's that? Whatever I sang, if I could, I did.
So when they were found, and then Howard took them, or Glenn took them and gave them to Howard, or whatever the case was, what's been happening with you now since people are listening?
Oh, Howard and Glenn are doing a great job, and they're working it out, and I love every bit of it, every bit of it. And that's it.
So do people get you on the phone or get you on the Zoom, and all of a sudden you start singing to them now?
You want me to tell you a great story that happened when I got married? We got married on a Sunday, and we went to the Neville Hotel. Now, I don't know if you're familiar or not, but in those days, it was a place where everybody went on their honeymoon. And that we got there on Monday, and Thursday they had, I suppose they called it guest night. Could do whatever you want to do. So, of course, I got up and I sang. And the band leader offered me a job singing on the stage. And I said, I'm married, it's finished. But that was very interesting. And I looked down at the audience, and it's a very big place. There had to be a couple thousand people there. And I said, witnesses, as if I had to have guaranteed that he did ask me, which is kind of silly when you're young, but he offered me a job. Well, that was very nice. And I don't remember the song I sang. I wish I would have. But that's it. He offered me a job. So.
What do you think would have happened if you did take it? What do you think might have happened?
What do I think would have happened? Well, I might not have the family I have today. Things would have been different.
True.
Things would have been different. But they are what they are, and it's wonderful.
So Howard, when it goes to social media links, how can people find out and check in to see what she's doing?
Well, we made a website for Madeline. So it's Madeline Forman, FORMAN.com. And the songs that we worked on and remastered are all uploaded and available there for free. So if people would like to take a listen and enjoy the music, that would be great. And there's a comments page as well, where people have already started to leave very sweet comments for Madeline. So again, that's Madeline Forman, all one word, FORMAN.com.
May I say one thing? Howard, you're wonderful. If it weren't for you, nothing of this would not have happened. I love you for it.
Same here, sweetheart. It's been my pleasure. It's really a lot of fun. And I was happy that I could use some of my odd skill set to help my family.
Madeline, how did you deal with everything with the lockdown, and what's your views on social media and like this, Zoom?
Not too much. It's difficult. It's hard. You have to make different decisions now than you would before, and they're daily. So it's tough. It's hard to say. You take it as it comes, and you work with what you got.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the only way. You got to accept it, and the best you got, and go with it.
And then the good thing,
right?
Because of Zoom and social media like this, I would have never had the opportunity to reach out and talk to you.
That's right. That's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. It's great. I don't know what to say. It's just the best. And you're pretty good looking, you know that?
well, why thank you, but I think you look better than me.
Well, I'll give you a few years to catch up to me. Yeah, go ahead.
Did you speak any Russian?
No. It's amazing. My mother, when she came over, my father didn't talk too much. He was a quiet man. But my mother, learned English and didn't learn with an accent. It was strange. And she learned it. She said she was reading street signs, read the newspaper, and that's how she learned in those days. She didn't go out and have teachers who had the money to do those things. So it's amazing, wonderful, no accent at all. So,
You know, what's interesting about that, Marilyn and Howard, is I learned a little Russian and a little bit of Mandarin, and I want to say spasiba to you because this is kind of where you grew, and you know, Dobe Dutra, I think it's afternoon there, obviously. So I appreciate that. So you just never know. So that's why I was always asking.
oh yeah, no, that's good. No, that's wonderful. Every little bit helps, you know that. It's great.
And the thing about that also,
And that's,
till this day, a lot of my friends who come over from other countries overseas have worked hard. They still, you can learn by watching cartoons, listening to music, the lyrics, reading
absolutely.
lines, voiceover
right.
people do the same thing. And then at that point in the movies, as you know, that's how a lot of them learn.
That's right. That's right. But they want to. You see, they have the desire to learn, and they're doing that. That's why they're learning, because they really want to, which is good. Very good.
We got a couple minutes left. So
Okay.
when social media came out and you're able to, if you can't see your significant others and your loved ones, were you one to sort of a little bit maybe jump on a computer and get savvy? Because I wouldn't be surprised if you did.
No, I want to. I haven't, but I will, because this is marvelous. Wonderful.
Well, here's the thing. You're kind of famous. I don't know if you know or not, because you've got a third go around.
Oh, really? Isn't that nice? That's wonderful. You know,
Yeah.
it's terrific. When I hear something good, makes me smile. It's wonderful. Yes.
All right, Howard, one more time. Howard, give us your social media links, how people can reach out and check out what you're doing. And then again, Marilyn's.
Sure. My music, my personal project is Groove Kings, GROOVEKINGS.ca. That's the Canadian.com. So my stuff is at groovekings.ca. Madeline is at madelineforman.com.
And Madeline, I want to thank you for your time. And like I said, you look beautiful. I love your colors because that's my colors of what you're wearing. And I love your hair. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on Movie Reviews.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I loved it, every one of it. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
And guess
Have a good
what?
day.
Never
Enjoy
stop
everything.
singing, right?
No, I try. I keep trying. Yes. Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's
You're welcome.
a pleasure talking with you.
Thanks very much, Brian. It was great to meet you.
Fine.
So as I always say when I
goodbye
end,
to-
this is Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Women on TV.tv, Worldwide TV Network, Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio. And I always say this, Madeline, you will enjoy this. If you see someone without a smile, give them one of Marilyn's because the world needs it, right?
You're absolutely right. Wonderful.